Okay, so this is going to be a quick run through of lab 5, and the thing about lab 5 is that if you're able to do this, you'll be set for tomorrow's viva. It covers everything from classes to inheritance to a bunch of other stuff. So this is the only lab you need to do. I'll just quickly go through it. We need to make a robot class, okay? It's gonna calculate distance, and then we need to make another robot class, and that's gonna inherit from the parent class, and that's gonna move the robot, calculate distance, calculate route, uh, and then we're also going to be going into angles, and then there's also a battery function. So before I start, let me just quickly run over what it means. Okay, angles का क्या करना है ना. तो let's say you have a robot at the origin, ठीक है. robot भाई यहाँ पे at 0 0 right over here, ठीक है. I'm gonna change the color for the robot, ठीक है. robot भाई यहाँ पे 0 पे, ठीक है. और robot भाई के coordinates हैं, I'll use blue for the coordinates, 0 0, ठीक है. तो and the robot भाई needs to go to let's say this is the target position 4 5. um, to calculate the angle, right? 4 5, this means it's traveling 4 units in the x direction, 5 units upwards. So you just basically need to do inverse tan inverse 5/4, right? Lekin it gets complicated because if the robot was not at the origin now, that's where it's usually gonna be, क्योंकि origin में it's just one single coordinate, हमेशा origin पे तो नहीं होगा, तो we can't really do that. We need to calculate it relative to the robot's position. तो वहाँ पे अब ये होगा कि let's say you have the robot over here, ठीक है. This is the position, ठीक है. And this is the origin, ठीक है. ये origin and this is 0 0. Let me just write it as well, ठीक है. This is 0 0 0 0 ठीक है. And this is 2 2, and the robot needs to go over here, ठीक है. And this position is 7 9, okay. So if we just directly do tan inverse 7 9 na, to make it more intuitive, let me just change the position of robot by look, ठीक है. The angle needs to be different. robot भाई यहाँ पे, ठीक है. तो let's say if we directly do tan inverse 7/9 ना, so the angle we'll be calculating is going to be this one, ठीक है. Oh shit, yeah, रुको. Okay, this one. This is going to be the angle. लेकिन the angle we want, right, is this one. Oh, this is such a rough drawing, लेकिन it works. हमें जो angle चाहिए ना वो ये वाला है. It's not this one. ये वाला नहीं चाहिए. So to get this one, what we need is the difference between these 2 points. The relative difference between these 2 points. So what we're going to be doing is tan inverse 9 minus 2 divided by 7 minus 2, and that's how we're going to get the angle relative to the robot's position. But however, there's also going to be a problem, because once you start subtracting and there's a fraction, 0 tends to sneak up in the denominator, and that causes a lot of issues. Like if it's just moving, oh, let me just make it bigger. So there we go. Achha, so if we have a robot over here, यहाँ पे है ना, ठीक है, and it's moving directly upwards, ठीक है. मतलब it's going from 1 3 to 1 5, ठीक है. It moved 2 units in the y direction. So now when we're gonna calculate tan inverse, right, ठीक है, 5 minus 3, that's going to be 2, and 1 minus 1, that's going to be 0. So this is an issue, right? So we're gonna be going by this through this case by case, and we know okay, if it's traveling upwards, that's just a 90-degree angle. So we'll check if the x coordinate is not changing, we'll just give the angle value 90 degrees directly. uh, Similarly, if it's traveling in this direction, or if it's traveling in this direction is 0 degrees, this is 180 degrees, and this is 270 or minus 90. ठीक है, 270 degrees slash minus 90. So these are the few cases you need to be careful of. Otherwise, you can just subtract the difference of the current position of the robot and the target position, and then just apply tan inverse to it, and you'll get the angle, except for these four conditions where it's moving in a specific direction and it's not moving in the other direction, like x or y constant, and that's where the problems start, and that's where we're gonna have to assign predefined angles. So I hope that made sense. ठीक है, because now we're gonna start programming. ठीक है, सबसे पहले we're gonna start with the class robot, and this is going to be the parent class. We're not gonna use this one, we're gonna use the second one, लेकिन it's important क्योंकि inheritance भी आ रहे हैं. तो once you have a class, you need to define the constructor def init, and constructor के अंदर you will pass self, right? In C++, what we had was we could declare the private variables, like इधर हम जगह होती थी, we would declare them over here, right? यहाँ पे anything you attach self to is going to be a private variable. तो because a robot exists and it has a position, तो robot का एक private variable होगा उसकी position. तो self dot x is equal to 0. I'm assigning 0 to it because I'm assuming every robot starts at 0. This can be different in your case, you can assign a position as well. All you'll have to do is give it a starting position, like यहाँ पे x comma y, like a comma b, the position, right? So लेकिन I'm just gonna stick with 0. I'm just gonna stick with the origin as the starting point. So once you have this, I'm also going to add another function just to show के inheritance में भी you can access functions. तो update position pause, ठीक है, you pass self to it and you pass two coordinates to it. So like let's say x coord comma y coord, and then self dot x is equal to x coord, self dot y is equal to y coord, y coord. तो इसके बाद let's make the child class robot, and this is gonna be mobile robot, and this is gonna inherit from what. So when you're doing inheritance in Python, all you need to do is write the parent class's name in the brackets over here. I don't even think यहाँ पे ज़रूरत थी brackets की, you can just यहाँ पे ज़रूरत भी नहीं brackets की क्योंकि यहाँ पे inheritance नहीं हो रही, लेकिन यहाँ पे हो रही है तो you need brackets. अच्छा, once again we need to define the constructor to def init underscore, and you pass self over here, ठीक है, and यहाँ पे I'm gonna declare a few things. सबसे पहले because we're inheriting, right, हमें ये पता होना चाहिए कि जो parent class के private variables हैं ना, the child class also has them. तो if we just do this like self dot x, अगर हम यहाँ पे अलग से करेंगे ना तो what's the point ना, inheritance हम कर क्यों नहीं. तो to make sure कि the constructor of the parent class also gets inherited, you write this super, oh my god, अच्छा, super dot underscore init underscore and curly brackets. Yep. इससे ये हो रहा है कि ये जो ऊपर दो variables हैं ना, everything that's happening in the parent class's constructor is being inherited over here. You won't have to repeat any of these lines. तो इसके अलावा we're gonna have another variable, self dot total distance is equal to 0. We're also gonna have another value, and angle is equal to 0. Acha, so that's pretty much it. I'm also going to be adding a list, and this list is going to be the list of all the points the robot visits, right? जहाँ पे भी वो जा रहा है, it's gonna be a list which gonna store every single position the robot moves to. So for that, I'm gonna use a list, or to declare a list, it's just pretty straightforward. Uh, root history, and इसको हम कर देंगे, इसके अंदर we're gonna add self dot x comma self dot y, क्योंकि इसकी starting position है ना we're declaring it and it's gonna start at the position जहाँ पे robot पड़ा हुआ है, and that's the current position of the robot, which is the origin. I could write 0 0 over here, लेकिन I'm just using the variables directly to ensure uniformity. अगर हम in the future we change this part, लेकिन it's gonna start at the origin, तो 0 0, ठीक है. इसके बाद we're gonna define the move function, def move robot, and it's gonna get self, it's gonna get the x coord, and it's gonna get the y coord, and these are the coordinates of the target position. तो अब इसके बाद there's something else I needed to do. यहाँ पे I needed to import math क्योंकि we're going to be using tan, and we're also going to be using the square root function, and that's not in vanilla Python, so we need to import math as m. So now we're gonna be able to access all of those functions using m. तो सबसे पहले I'm gonna calculate the distance, oh my god, distance अच्छा, distance calculate करने के लिए it's straightforward. journal में भी formula given था is this one. तो distance, अच्छा फासला लिख रहा हूँ, ठीक है, because distance is the distance is, yeah, I can use distance is equal to m dot sqrt, this is square root. इसके अंदर we're gonna find the difference of self dot x minus x coord, और इसको हमने स्क्वायर करना है, एंड इसको ऐड करना है सेल्फ डॉट वाई माइनस वाई कॉर्ड, और हमने इसको भी स्क्वायर करना है. दैट्स गोना गिव अस द डिस्टेंस. इसके बाद we're just gonna add this into the total distance. तो self dot total distance plus equal to distance. इसके बाद you have to calculate the angle, right? और this is we're gonna start the if condition जो मैं बात कर रहा था कि the predefined cases, ऊपर जा रहा है नीचे जा रहा है. तो let's say if it's moving in the up or down direction, we're gonna know कि इसका जो x coordinate है ना वो same है, because it's only moving in the y direction, तो x coordinate नहीं change होगा. तो उसके लिए we're gonna compare the current x value and the target x value. So x value. So if self dot x is equal to x coord, we know कि it's not moving in the x direction, it's only moving in the y direction. We can check कि y में ये ऊपर जा रहा है या नीचे जा रहा है, क्योंकि फर्दर एक डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है, या तो ऊपर जाएगा या नीचे जाएगा. So to check the direction, we're gonna have another statement which is going to check the magnitude of the y coordinate, क्योंकि self dot y, if it's greater than the coordinate y coord, ठीक है, which is the target value, we know कि नीचे जा रहा है, ठीक है. I'll just draw it over here as well, क्योंकि let me just quickly clean this up. अच्छा, अच्छा, तो if the robot is at 1,1, ठीक है, and its target value is 1, ठीक है. वी नो कि ये नीचे जा रहा है क्योंकि द वाई वैल्यू इज़ डिक्रीजिंग, 1 से जा रही है -5 तक, विच मीन्स इट्स डिक्रीजिंग बाय 6 यूनिट्स ना. तो वी नो कि अगर वो नीचे जा रहा है ना, तो द एंगल द रोबोट इज़ ट्रैवलिंग एट इज़ 270 डिग्रीज या -90. तो दैट्स व्हाट वी आर गोना डू ओवर हियर. एंड क्योंकि वी नो कि इट्स डिक्रीजिंग, तो हम इसको बस डायरेक्टली ये कह सकते हैं कि सेल्फ डॉट एंगल इज़ इक्वल टू -90. तो द नेक्स्ट स्टेप इज़ कि इफ़ इट्स मूविंग अपवर्ड्स, तो जस्ट पुट एन एल स्टेटमेंट, क्योंकि अगर ये कम नहीं होगा तो इट्स गोना बी मोर, ज़्यादा होगा. तो that's gonna give the angle self dot angle is equal to 90. तो इसके बाद we're gonna check else if elif होता है elif elif, ठीक है. Self dot y is equal to y chord. Now we're gonna check if it's traveling in the x direction, या left या right जा रहा है. तो for that ये same copy होगा यहाँ से यहाँ पे. And if it is, I'm just gonna change this x डालना है यहाँ पे भी x डालना है. अच्छा तो if x is less than, if the target x is less than the current x, let me just, so if it's going from 1,5 to, let's say, -3,5, we know कि it's going in this direction, which is the negative x direction, which is also left, which is also 180 degrees. तो यहाँ पे एंगल होगा 180, ठीक है, 180. And the other option is if it's going right, so the right direction is 0, is going here, this is 0 degrees, so this is gonna be 0. अब what's left is के the tan condition, where we just use the tan condition, self dot angle is equal to m dot degrees, क्योंकि जो tan inverse है ना, it gives us the answer in radians, तो m dot a tan. अच्छा, और this is the object we created over here, and we're using it to access the degree converter and the tan inverse function. इसके अंदर we just need to pass the difference of the y coordinate, which is self dot y minus y chord, and we're going to divide it by self dot x, self dot x minus x chord. So this should give the direction, and इसके बाद we can I also made this list, right? So we need to update the root. उसके लिए there's this function in Python, it's called append, and it works with like double lists या nested lists, I guess. And how it works is कि if you have a list, right, let me just use the notepad for this one. Notepad, अच्छा. So if you have a list, right, let's say एक लिस्ट है आपके पास, एंड इट्स a nested list. इसके अंदर एक और लिस्ट है 1,1, एंड इसके अंदर एक और छोटी सी लिस्ट है 2,9, एंड यू वांट टू ऐड अनदर लिस्ट, राइट. इसके अंदर आपने एक और ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं, आपने एक और लिस्ट डालनी है. दैट्स व्हाट अपेंड इज़ फॉर एडिंग लिस्ट टू अ लिस्ट ऑफ लिस्ट, इफ दैट मेक्स सेंस. तो वंस यू like if this is like x, right, and you append x dot append, you use the append function and add another list right यहाँ पे. So it's just gonna be added over here, like let's say it's 3 comma 9. ये नहीं list की values हैं. तो what's gonna happen is यहाँ पे it's gonna get added 3 comma 9 like as a list. So it's like really handy when you want to store store coordinates and just things that have dimensions to them. uh, जिन 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 parameters या जिन variables में dimensions या multiple uh, you know what I'm x y z multiple चीज़ें आ जाती हैं, तो it's convenient to store them in a list. तो for that all you need to do is self dot uh, you need to access the root history and you need to do the append thingy over here, and append के अंदर you need to x coord comma y coord, and that's gonna add the coordinates to the list, and that's it. uh, I'm also going to print everything, to print f total distance is equal to self dot total distance, and I'm also going to print the angle f angle is equal to self dot angle, and I'm also going to print, I'll print the root separately. Acha, let's go. Now I'm gonna make an object and I'm gonna test if this works. Acha, so for this I actually have a list over here. मैं use करूँ पुरानी वाली. Oh my god, ये mouse ये वाली. I'm gonna use this list. It's a list of coordinates. I'm gonna make a path and I'm gonna assign this, and now इसके बाद we're gonna make an object. We're gonna call it Wally because that's a robot. I like Wally, and Wally is equal to a mobile robot. ठीक है, mobile robot. Now Wally is a robot and we need to make Wally move. So for that we're gonna use a loop, and it's gonna loop through every single one of these coordinates. The for chord in path Wally dot move robot, and we're gonna give it chord 0, which is the x coordinate, chord 1, which is the y coordinate, and this is gonna have the robot move, and we're gonna print Wally dot root history. Acha, if someone's confused by where this came from, when we have lists, ठीक है, let me just clean it up again. Yeah, ठीक है. When we have lists, right? If you have a list, उसमें 1, 2, 3 है, and this list is called x. So if you write x comma x के, if you do this is referring to 1. ठीक है. So if you want to access 3, you're gonna write x comma 2. So this is 0, x comma this is x comma 0, this is x comma 1, and this is x comma 2, comma नहीं, like index wise. So because our list has coordinates which is x, which is let's just say the coordinate is 1 and 9, so the x coordinate is going to be at the 0 index, and the y coordinate is going to be at the 1 index. That's pretty much it. So bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we have an error, कोई मसला नहीं, model no m dot degree. We forgot an s. M dot decrease. Okay. Okay, so it's working. uh, Angle, distance, let me just look at this. Angle 90. It's quite, total distance we understand from 15. It's 57. Mm. Hmm. यहाँ पे एक इशू हुआ है. I think I forgot to update the x and y coordinates यहाँ पे, because after the robot moves its position gets updated, right? So, and that's why I made this function just start me when at the update position to show कि in the child class you can access this one. तो उसके लिए all I need to do is in move I need to add self dot update position and give it the x and y coordinates. Now if I run it, angles सही आने चाहिए. Angle 0, angle 90, yep, सही आ रहे हैं सब. And make sure if you're working with any types of coordinates or any types of motion involving robots and whatnot, make sure you update the coordinates right at the end. Okay? Because if you update them before, it's gonna it's not gonna work. You need to update it after you're done calculating all the things you want to calculate, all the angles. You need to make sure it's at the end. Uh, that's it. There's also this path following with battery management. It's pretty simple. You're just gonna need to add a function and an if statement. So you should do this on your own, practice. इंशाल्लाह आप सबका वाइवा कल अच्छा होगा. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह बड़ी मुश्किल से वीडियो बनी है. आई मेड सो मैनी मिस्टेक्स. मेरी भी इससे तैयारी होगी. एनीवेज, अल्लाह हाफिज़.